lethal, powerful, and sneaky. These are things that describe the G.I. Joe Corps of Navy SEALs. But however, there is one thing that trumps them completely, and that is the Cobra water moccasin. Now if you're wondering why this vehicle is so great, that is the simple fact that it is probably one of the most iconic G.I. Joe water vehicles out there. This vehicle is an absolute showstopper for the Cobra arsenal, and while many will prefer the HISS tank, I prefer this one because it contains so much more detail. And for me personally, I also particularly love it because it was my first G.I. Joe vehicle. But that's not to discredit it because complete, it is an absolute beauty. And speaking about beauty, this vehicle has a bunch of details scattered throughout, such as the lateral destructor cannons on each side, along with a set of exterior crew decks. The vehicle also has two different types of seating, one up front for the driver and one in the back for the gunner, which can be particularly fun for playtime. And while I have been covering the detail, I got to say that there's probably too much to cover in this video. With that being said, I'm going to try to cover as much as possible and the most important. In there is the nice little canopy above the pilot seat, some engine covers toward the back of the vehicle which open up and reveal weapons or anything you want to store in there, and toward the back you get a nice little action feature which allows you to move the rotor from the back via this little wheel right here, and that moves the rotors. But you can also move the vanes from side to side from the back. Another cool thing that is found on this vehicle is on the bottom of it, where you have this little thing right here. Interpretations of what this thing is. For me, it was always a little jet sled, just in case Copperhead got in a sticky situation with the Joes, he could always float away. But apparently on the box, and I was not aware of this, it is actually a remote guided missile. So that makes all the B-roll clips that I took absolutely useless, because why would you want to ride a remote control missile? And what is a vehicle without its driver? In this case, the driver of the water moccasin is Copperhead. Copperhead's file card reads the following. It is presumed that Copperhead is native to, or otherwise intimately familiar with, the Florida Everglades. Intelligence sources venture a guess that he raced speedboats in high-stakes races in Monaco and Japan. His major weakness is gambling. Odds are that he got started by placing bets on his own races. Apparently, he compounded his folly by selling his services to Cobra in hopes of paying off his bookies. So in other words, he's a mercenary, which in my opinion is really cool. But as a figure as a whole, I'm gonna say that this figure looks pretty awesome. It has such nice little detailing at the leg, with the inside of it being green and the outside being blue. And then the tank top makes him look super buff for a G.I. Joe figure. And his helmet is super nice and reminds me something out of Star Wars. And I'm sure the commander would be quite happy with such a specimen on the Cobra team. My particular copy is the later version of Copperhead compared to the earlier version, which is this one. As you can see, it has no stripe and his gloves are different than the more later version. But as for the later version, I have to say it is super nice, and I prefer it because it has more paint detail. And now that we've talked about how detailed he is, we might as well get into his articulation. Swivel at the head, his arm moves out that far, swivel at the forearm, a nice and spicy bend, an O-ring type ball joint. He can kick up this far, he can kick back not very far, and finally a bend at the knee. So overall his articulation is just a standard G.I. Joe figure. With that being said, why don't we get on to his animated appearances? As for Copperhead's appearance, his first appearance in the Sunbow cartoon was in Jungle Trap, where he appears here.
Hurry! The Joes are coming! Cobra!
His first voice appearance was also in Jungle Trap, but a little later, where he goes,
Hold it right there! Well, it looks like what we got here is a couple of G.I. jungle rats. The only thing a rat's good for is target practice.
And his last appearance was in the animated G.I. Joe series Worlds Without End Part 1.
Can't you get any speed out of this thing? We'll split up and rendezvous at the Redwood base. And you can account to Cobra Commander for the delay!
And I guess Cobra Commander would have gotten super mad about that rendezvous thing because Copperhead disappeared from the Sunbow animation from then on. But now that we're done looking at Copperhead, let's take a look at the box, shall we? The box itself is the classic G.I. Joe style box with the huge G.I. Joe logo, the little Cobra water moccasin splash right there, Cobra the enemy, and the nice little photo of the water moccasin with Destro, Cobra Commander, and a Cobra officer. And there's a little bubble packaging that displays Copperhead right there. And if you turn it to the back, you get a more detailed description of what you get in the box, where it has Copperhead and the overall details of what you get inside. And then you also get the filed card to the bottom right. And I've got to say, the marketing was quite ingenious for the G.I. Joe stuff, because that detailed description made it seem like you were actually getting a real weapon, or it made it seem a lot more cool, in my opinion. And in fact, to show some of that marketing, here's the commercial for the water moccasin.
He'll fight for freedom wherever there's trouble. G.I. Joe is there. G.I. Joe!
Cobra's stealing the capsule! They're getting away in the water moccasin!
And with him are the evil new Cobras, Firefly, Scrap Iron, and the Baroness.
The shark will catch him.
G.I. Joe, real American hero!
They're throwing the capsule overboard!
Let's go get it. Way to go, Joe! Go, Joe!
G.I. Joe Shark comes with Diver. Water Moccasin comes with Driver. Other figures sold separately from Hasbro.
So overall, this is an absolutely amazing toy. And while it is relatively simplistic, the details are absolutely gorgeous, the stickers are absolutely on point, the driver is an absolute mad lad. Everything about this vehicle just makes me feel great. And I have to say, this is a must-have for any G.I. Joe collector. Unless, of course, you're bidding against me on eBay for the item. In that case, don't bother. So anyway, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. A big shout out to HCC788 for letting all of us Joe fans join in on Cobra Convergence 5. And thank you all for liking and subscribing. And remember, if you don't, you will end up like the toys in my basement.